Let me ask you a question that might land a little closer than expected. Who sees you? And yes, I mean you, not the version of you that shows up polished and prepared, and not the one checking the boxes and holding everything together, but the real one underneath it all. Welcome to At What Point, the podcast where we dive into the real, raw, and rewarding journey of personal and professional growth. I'm Catherine, your host, here to guide you through mindset shifts, powerful aha moments, and the resilience it takes to thrive no matter what life throws your way. Whether you're climbing the corporate ladder, taking the leap into entrepreneurship, or just looking for that boost of motivation, you are in the right place. Let's dive in. We are right in the middle of the holiday season, the season that comes with so much expectation, wrapped in a shiny paper, joy, laughter, family photos, gifts under the tree. Traditions carry out like clockwork. This is the version of the season everyone sees, and chances are you're doing your part to keep that version alive. You're making sure the presents are bought, the meals are planned, and the work deadlines are closed out. I'm sure that you're showing up, even when your body's tired, even if you are fighting off a cold, even when the raise you were expecting at work didn't come through the way that you hope it will. You keep smiling, friend, because that's what this season quietly demands. But behind that smile is a whole other story. Behind it is the part of you carrying a sack full of dreams, hopes, and quiet wishes, the one that didn't quite make it into this year, the ones that push to a mental maybe next year list, like a personal Santa letter you never actually send, the kind that says, maybe next year I will rest more. Maybe next year I will finally choose myself. Maybe next year I will stop settling for what drains me. And here's where it gets tricky, because when you're good at holding things together, people stop checking if you need help. When you are reliable, capable, and strong, your silence gets mistaken for stability. So I want to ask you again, who sees you when you start to sink beneath that smile? Who hears the truth hidden inside the sentence, I'm just tired, and knows it's not about sleep at all? The reality is most of us are surrounded by people, family, friends, colleagues, communities. But being surrounded is not the same thing as being deeply seen. And that distinction matters more than we like to admit, especially during a season that can amplify both connection and loneliness at the same time. There is a rare kind of person who doesn't wait until you fall apart to check in. Someone who dives in before things get dramatic, before the breakdown, before the tears spill over. Someone who listens for what's not being said, who understands that I'm fine can sometimes mean I'm barely holding on. And if you even have one person like that in your life, I want you to hold them close. I want you to appreciate them. Tell them they matter, because that kind of presence is not common and it should never be taken for granted. And here is the part we don't talk about enough. Not everyone has that person. And pretending that everyone does only adds another layer of shame to an already heavy season. So if you don't have someone who dives in for you, this is where the conversation has to shift. This is where it becomes about learning to be that person for yourself. Not in a cold, self-reliant, I don't need anyone way, but in a grounded, honest, compassionate way. The kind where you start noticing when you are sinking instead of pushing yourself to swim harder just to prove you can. And it starts with paying attention to your body when it feels heavy, to your thoughts when they start looping, to the way your patience gets thinner. Maybe your joy feels muted or your motivation quietly slips away. So instead of brushing it off and instead of telling yourself that you will deal with it later, I want you to pause and ask a different question. I want you to ask yourself, what do I actually need right now? Not what will make everyone else more comfortable, not what will keep the peace, but what do I really need? Is rest, space, honesty, support, boundaries? Sometimes the answer is simple, and sometimes it's uncomfortable, but ignoring it always comes at a cost. I want you to think about these. You offer grace so easily to others. You understand their bad days, their moods, their limits. Imagine extending even a fraction of that same kindness to yourself. Imagine not criticizing yourself for feeling tired, disappointed, or overwhelmed during a season that asks for more than it gives. That kind of self awareness, friend, is powerful, is protective, and is something I learned the hard way. I learned at 50 years old that constantly excusing other people's lack of attention makes you invisible. There is a difference between empathy and self abandonment. And I crossed that line more times than I can count. I told myself stories to justify why people couldn't show up. They're busy, they're stressed, they didn't mean it. And while those things might have been true, the part I ignored was my own responsibility to set boundaries, to be realistic instead of endlessly understanding, to stop waiting for someone else to notice my needs and start honoring them myself. So this holiday season, more than any gift you could wrap or any tradition you could perfect, there is an opportunity to give yourself something far more meaningful, and it's permission. Permission to put yourself first without guilt. Permission to stop overextending to make up for what others don't offer. Permission to acknowledge what hurts, what's missing, and what you are ready to change. Friend, as the year comes to a close, I want you to reflect on this gently. Notice where you have been smiling through heaviness. Notice where you have been hoping someone else will see you, rescue you, or finally understand you. And then ask yourself what it will look like to become the person who notices first, the one who doesn't let yourself drown while waiting for someone else to jump in. Because while it's beautiful to be supported, it's transformative to know you can support yourself with honesty, care, and courage. So as this year wraps up and the holidays move fast around you, I want you to pause for just a moment and really check in with yourself in the same way you would with a close friend sitting across the table from you with a warm cup of coffee. At what point do you stop waiting for someone else to notice that you are struggling and decide to be honest with yourself about what you need? At what point do you choose to protect your energy, your peace, and your heart instead of explaining away why everyone else gets access to it first? There is no judgment in those questions, only an invitation. An invitation to end this year a little more aware, a little more grounded, and a little more committed to yourself than you were last year. You don't need to have it all figured out, and you don't need to make big promises for January, but you do deserve to be seen and cared for, especially by yourself. And if no one has told you this lately, I want you to know that I see you. I see how much you carry, and I see how hard you try even when you're tired. So as the lights go up, the music plays, and the year comes to a close, give yourself the gift of kindness and honesty. Happy holidays, friend. You matter more than you think. Thanks for joining another episode of At What Point. I hope today's conversation sparked some inspiration for your journey of growth and transformation. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to visit katherinebeltran.com/podcast for show notes, special discounts on coaching packages, and freebies to help you keep moving forward. And last but not least, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a show. See you next time.